The Game Boy's been going through a resurgence of late, and I've been enjoying all the news coming our way of brand new titles. Infinity has just smashed its Kickstarter, and I've been chatting to a few indie devs preparing to release demos of promising platformers. Nintendo's handy little icon certainly shows no signs of giving up on its loyal fans anytime soon. I was lucky to be sent a copy of another new Game Boy title this week, Shapeshifter from Green Boy Games, that went for a successful Kickstarter in January that saw 900 eager backers pledge $60,000. We now have the final product, and I have a full lowdown of Shapeshifter for the Game Boy. Hey guys, just before I get into my full review, it's worth doing an unboxing for this game, any physical game. You want to have a look what's in there. I know you collectors out there want to know what's going on inside the box. So it comes in this really nice shipper, Green Boy Games, as you can see. Let's if I can get it open, that would help, wouldn't it? Nice and sturdy, so it's protected. Great thing about it being a Game Boy game, it comes in one of those really nice plastic cases that many of you will be familiar with, which I thought was great. And as you can see, it's a Game Boy game, Game Boy shape, Game Boy sort of style and everything, and it's got the Green Boy sort of motifs on there, which is very good. Now if I can open this without damaging it, would be nice. There we go. Inside, everything that you would expect. Oh, we get it around the right way, that's typical. Obviously we've got our Game Boy cart, which comes in one of the little Game Boy cases, which is good. I'm just going to stick that over there because while I'm doing this, I'm going to show you how the game looks on the Game Boy. So the usual things you'd expect, we'll get those out of the way. It obviously comes with a manual, very exactly what you'd expect, just the controls, a little bit of story, that kind of thing. Again, nice style to it. I like this. It has some little stickers, stick on your Game Boy or whatever you want to stick those on, which is pretty cool. You had this wheel thing. Now I think this was an interesting thing. So when you start the game, you have to put in a code. So you've got like, it's called dial an animal. So depending on sort of where it lands, so you've got to match up there. Let's try and do this properly. So if I match it up there, it gives me the codes I need to get into the game, and you can have a play about with that once you've purchased it. I like this as well. It came with a little pocket guide. I did have to use this once or twice in my playthrough, only because I was trying to get it reviewed as quickly as possible. But it's got some nice pictures and it sort of goes through the story a bit. But yeah, don't use it. Don't read it until you completed the game. Otherwise, it spoils what you've got to do in the game. But yeah, a nice little thing again. It's quite in depth as well. And lastly, we have, let me get all this out of the way. That would help, wouldn't it, if I do that and do that and do that. Lastly, this really cool, I really like this. I'm a big fan of things like this. It's like a little, almost like a medallion. I'm not sure if all of these will be included in all the games, but it's like, I won't get it out. Basically, it's a little medallion, a little plastic case that has, just little things, thingamabobs on it, just to celebrate the game. But just before we leave this unboxing, I just wanted to quickly show you the game on a Game Boy. The reason being is I'm going to play upside down as well. Like, this is absolute magic. Reason being is I recorded my game footage on a Game Boy player, and it's not like the best, but I just wanted to show you how good it looks on the Game Boy. Yeah, I've actually given it a go on the Game Boy as well, but to record the game footage, which you'll see in a moment, there we go. Let's turn the volume up. So you use your spinning wheel to put the code in, etc. That's just to give you an idea of how great the graphics look. It looks really, really good on the Game Boy. It's a really accomplished game. At its heart, Shapeshifter is a classic point-and-click adventure. You explore single-screen areas, picking up items and working out how to use them. It does go deeper than that, however, as you are faced with a few action stages and Metroidvania-style backtracking. Right from the start, the ambition that Green Boy Games owner Dana Putsch shows is evident. Clearly the aim here was to bring a new type of indie game to the Game Boy. With so many action and RPG games out there, it feels fresh to have a new genre to tackle. But how does it play? Well, let's find out. You start Shapeshifter as Elliot, a young boy on a camping trip. After suddenly awakening, you find yourself at the start of a fantastical adventure. Your first charge is saving an elf from a well, and once this is complete, he rewards you with special powers. You can turn into any animal you touch and use their abilities to progress through the main quest. The elf asks you to go with him to his magical land, but you're unable to fit through the small hole in the tree. So begins your adventure through mountains, mines and the ocean. The story is actually decent for a Game Boy title. I nearly always find myself dismissing them in indie games, but I actually cared about Elliot's plight. I will not spoil the story, but suffice to say there will be a sequel. So what about this ability to morph into animals? At first I thought it was a cheap gimmick to add fluff, but most of the animals have an impact on the story. The first thing I noticed was that I only need to be an animal for a certain section before changing back to human form and moving on. I was a little disappointed with the mechanic at first, but being a puzzle game, allowing players freedom to be anything they wanted would have made the game unplayable in certain sections. However, spread throughout this adventure are mini-games that use the specific ability of certain animals. A great example is morphing into a grasshopper and leaping around a tree avoiding horrible spiders. Another is morphing into a bat to escape a collapsing cave. It's fantastic stuff. Some of the animals you morph into are clearly just plot devices to get you between screens or to solve a puzzle. This is probably the only negative I can find reviewing Shapeshifter. Everything else is very positive. A few of the creatures could have been left out and items used to solve puzzles instead. But it's good to see the developer try and include as much actual shapeshifting as possible, even if it is only to get through a small hole, for example. And the action stages mentioned before are worth noting again. The game would have suffered without the animals because the point and click sections are quite basic. You only hold one item at a time, so it's not overly difficult to work out the puzzles. So having these different sections with the different animals actually adds a lot to the gameplay. That being said, I did get stuck a few times. A section towards the end requires a lot of backtracking while switching between multiple forms to gain access to the next section. But overall, point and click veterans will skip through this one quickly. And that is not actually a bad thing. The game is fairly short, but keeps the fun pumping throughout. There was not any moments where I lost interest. I feel if the game had been any longer than the 3 hours I spent on it, things may have started to drag. It is rare for an indie game to find a perfect length. They are either way too short or way too long. Shapeshifter sits nicely in the middle and provides just enough. Anyone familiar with point and click games will know there's not much to say about the controls. They function exactly as they should. However, it's worth mentioning the controls for the action sequences. I was surprised how well they function in this type of game engine. Each of the action stages requires a different skill, but all handled well. A standout being the grasshopper jumping high or low depending on how hard you press the action button. But apart from that, there is a button to select on-screen objects and 4 directions to move. If I'm being picky, a diagonal would have come in handy, but the lack of it does not spoil the gameplay. The presentation in Shapeshifter is also decent. Bold sprites fill the screen, and there's a great variety in the different areas. Some of the backgrounds are a little bland, but overall the graphics are great. Personally, I would have liked to have seen a little more detail in the characters. Some do look like blocks rather than defined shapes, but I also feel this is the style that the developer was aiming for. The standout visual treats are the small cutscenes that appear between sections. They were most impressive considering the limitations offered on the Game Boy. The music and effects by Cesc Mozzota and Oscar Latore are clean and crisp. Some of the music gets repetitive, but again, we must remind ourselves that the developer has the restraints of a Game Boy cart to work with. Overall, the presentation is of a high quality for an indie game. The game is broken down into distinct areas featuring different landscapes and themes. The variety is a welcome one and keeps the slow-paced nature fresh. This game will not suit everybody. Arcade gamers and action fans will probably not get the rush they need, but those who enjoy a unique story with varied gameplay will definitely enjoy this one. The characters are distinct and the dialogue kept to a minimum. The level of difficulty is just about right for a handheld game, and it's one you can enjoy again due to the fun action stages. I really enjoy playing through Shapeshifter. Yes, it is a little short, but there is lots of fun to be had. The pacing is great and the gameplay is broken up with mini action stages. It has interesting graphics and tunes that complement the slower pace point and click style. Is it perfect? No. I would have liked to have had the option to free roam a little as the animals, and some of the puzzles are very back and forth, which is not ideal. But overall, Shapeshifter is a very accomplished indie title that deserves success. You can buy your copy now at Gameboy Games.